All right, well, thank you everyone for coming. We are Murasame-kai, a Karuta club that is located here in San Francisco. Now, who's heard of Karuta before? A few of you? Okay. Is there anyone that came in here and have no idea what Karuta is? Okay, that's how I was when I first heard about it as well. That's fine. I'm going to just give a little bit of an explanation of what the game is about, and then we're going to watch a demonstration of the game being played, and I'll give a little bit of explanation as it's going on so that you'll walk away today with an understanding of what Karuta is and how it's played. If you have additional questions afterwards, feel free to come up to myself or any of the people here, and we are more than happy in order to answer any additional questions. Or if you feel like this is something that you would like to do sometime, we meet on a regular basis here, and we welcome anyone to come join us. So my name is Travis, and I'm just going to start out by giving a little bit of background on what Karuta is. So it is a traditional Japanese card game that is several centuries old, and it's based off of classical Japanese poetry. It's based off of a collection of poems called the Hyakunin Ishu, which is 100 poems by 100 different poets from the 7th to the 13th century, and they were considered to be some of the best poems in Japanese history at the time that this collection was made. So this, within the Hyakunin Ishu Karuta family, there's a number of different variations on the rules of the game. The one that we'll be seeing today is what is called Kyogi Karuta, which is a competitive form of Karuta. It is a structured sport in Japan where you have national tournaments, you have a ranking system, and it's a very competitive, very, the people who play it, take it very seriously. So the basic rules of the game is there are two types of cards. We have, these are some examples of what they look like. We have a reading card, and then we have a grabbing card. The way that the game works is you have a reciter who will be reading from the reading card, and then the players down here have the grabbing cards lined up in front of them, and they try to grab the card that is associated with the poem on the reading card that the reciter has read. So to break that down a little bit more, on the reading card, it's divided up in a few different sections. Over here we have the name of the poet, and then you have the first half of the poem. This, if you're familiar with haiku or other Japanese poetry, this follows the traditional poetry form of 5-7-5-7-7 as far as the syllable breakdown goes. So the first half of the poem is called the kaminoku, and it has 5 syllables, 7 syllables, and 5 syllables. The second half of the poem is called the shimonoku, which has 7 syllables and then 7 syllables. So the way that it works is the reciter will start by reading a poem with the first half of the poem in the 5-7-5 section. And the players, when they hear that, will grab the associated grabbing card. Now the grabbing card, as we see over here, only has the second half of the poem on it. It was only the 7-7 portion of the poem. So they need to be listening very carefully to the poem that's being read and make that association in their mind to the card that they need to grab. Let's see if there's anything else that I wanted to mention. Oh yeah. So in a competitive game, there are 100 cards which go along with the 100 poems. And each player has 25 of those 100 cards in front of them, but all 100 will actually be read over the course of the game. A full game can last anywhere from an hour to 2 hours. We're going to do a shortened version for the sake of time, and each of these players that are going to be playing today will only have 10 cards in front of them. So we'll go ahead and get started. At the beginning of every match, the players will first bow to each other, and then they will bow to the reciter.
Introduction.
And let me, before we actually go on, let me just introduce the people who will be participating today. So first of all, we have over here is one of our players. We have Mariko Robertson. She is a Yodan, or a 4th degree ranking within Karuta. She played when she was in Japan on her high school club. And our other player is Kaidai Kimoto. And he is an 8th grade student here in San Francisco, and he learns to play Karuta through the San Francisco Japanese School. He just recently joined our club, Murasame-kai, And within just a short amount of time of joining, he's shown exceptional skill. He's learned the game very quickly and has been able to pick it up really well. Has become one of the top players within the club. And then finally, we have a special guest here today, Mr. Takao Ito, who has come all the way from Japan in order to be here for the Cherry Blossom Festival. Now, Mr. Ito has been a significant contributor to the promotion of Karuta, both in Japan and internationally, and so we are very thrilled in order to have him here, and he will be the reciter for today's match. So, we will, in order to begin, Mr. Ito will actually read the first card. This is not going to be one of the cards in front of them. It's called the Joka, which is an introductory poem. This gives the players a chance in order to hear the voice of the reciter, get familiar with his voice and the rhythm of the poems, so that when the actual game starts and he starts reading the cards that are in front of them, they'll be able to go after them more quickly. So we'll go ahead and begin.
何わずに咲くやこの花冬の森今を春べと咲くやこの花今を春べと咲くやこの花墨の絵の岸による波
So one of the first things that you'll probably notice is how quickly the players will go after the cards. It happens within a split second as they hear the beginning of the poem and know which card that they need to go after. So the poem that was just read began with the phrase Sumi no eno, and the reason why they were able to move so fast is because out of the collection of 100 poems, there is only one poem that begins with the syllable su. So the moment that they hear that su at the very beginning, they've immediately narrowed down to which card that they need to go after. And so that's one of the things that you will see a lot as the speed, and that's a lot of the strategy to go with the game. So in comparison, there are 16 different cards that start with the syllable a. So if a is the first syllable, they'll have to wait until the second or the third or the fourth syllable until they get to a unique syllable before they can narrow down which card it is that they need to go after. So the set of syllables which help them determine and narrow down the cards to the exact one they need to take is called the kimariji, or the unique syllable set. So we'll go ahead and continue on.
夢のかゆいじ一目よくらん瀬を早みはにせかる滝川の
So that poem began with the phrase Seo Hayami, and that is another unique syllable poem. There's only one that begins with se. Now in this situation, Mariko took a card from Kaidai's territory on his side of the tatami. And so what she does now is she takes one of her cards and she will hand it over to him. The way that you win the match is not by getting the most cards, but by eliminating all the cards on your side of the tatami.
割れてもすにあんとぞ小倉山峰の虹は心あらば
So this time neither player touched any of the cards, and the reason why is because the poem that was read is not one of the cards that's down in front of them. As I mentioned before, in a full game each player has 25 cards in front of them, but there are 100 poems that are read, which means that half of them will not appear down there. So they need to be paying attention and make sure that they don't take a card that when a poem is read that doesn't match any of the cards in front of them. So this is called a karafuda, or a void card.
今ひとたびのみゆきまたもろともにあわれともい山桜
So this time, the poem that was read began with the syllable mo. But there are actually two different poems within the set that began with mo. The one that was read was Moro Tomoni, but the card that I believe that Mariko grabbed there was Momo Shikiya. So they both start with mo, but they're actually a different poem. This is called an otetsuki, when you actually touch or grab a card that is not the correct card that matches the one that's being read. And in those situations, there's a penalty against the player that touched the incorrect card. The other player will give them one of their cards. Therefore, they clear one off of their side, and the person who committed the otetsuki gains a card. So it creates a 2-card shift in the direction of the player who made the mistake, which can be a pretty severe penalty over the course of the game.
花より他に知る人もなし君がため春の野に出て若夏む
So this time, if you were paying really close attention, you might have seen Kaidai as he put his hand over the card that was right in front of him, but he didn't actually touch it until several syllables into the poem. This is because the poem that was being read starts with the phrase Kimi ga tame, but there are multiple poems that actually begin with that phrase. This one was Kimi ga tame ha. So until it got to the 6th syllable, he couldn't be absolutely sure that that was the card that he needed to take. So what he did is he did a technique called kakoite, which is where he puts his hand in front of the card to prevent Mariko from being able to reach it. And then the moment that he hears that 6th syllable and he's sure that the one that his hand is over is the correct card, then he can go ahead and take it. So that's one of the advanced strategies that you'll see if you watch very closely.
我が衣でに雪は降りつつ桃敷や古きの牙の忍ぶにも
So I mentioned earlier that there were multiple cards that start with the syllable mo, and this was the second one. But since there is only 2, and the first one had been read earlier, that meant that they automatically knew which card to go after the moment that they heard mo. And so in this situation, Mariko was able to go after that and able to take that card. So these are some of the techniques and strategies, the basic rules of the game. You've probably figured it out by now, but up until now we've kind of planned out which cards would be read so that we could demonstrate and explain to you how the game works. But going forward, all of the cards are going to be randomized. Neither player knows which card is coming up, and so you'll be able to see how the game is actually played. And we'll go ahead and continue through the rest of the game.
なおはまりある昔なりけりちぎりきな片身に袖を絞りつつ末の松山波こさじとは世の中よりちこそなけれ思いる山の奥にもしかぞなくなる風そよぐ奈良の川の夕暮れはみそぎぞ夏の印なりける風を痛みはうつないの己の身砕けても思う頃かなちはやぶる髪を聞かず竜田川
So this last poem, I'll just want to give some, to interject on that. It starts with the phrase Chihaya Furu, which if you're familiar with manga or anime, there was a series that came out recently that was called Chihaya Furu that is about Karuta. The main character from that series is named Chihaya. and it's about people who are playing Karuta in a high school environment. And this manga has actually had a big influence on the popularity of the sport, both in Japan and in the United States. So if you ever come across that, you hear about it, now you know that's where the title came from. It came from the first phrase of the poem from the card that was just read.
からくれない水ぶくろとホトトギスがきつかた長ぶればただ有明の月ぞのこれるながらえばまだこの頃やしのばれ取られてお手つきをしたので
Oh, okay. Yeah, so in this situation, Mariko was able to take a card from Kaidai's side, which means that she's able to give one of her cards over to him. And at the same time, Kaidai committed an otetsuki where he touched the wrong card. So in this situation, it would be a double card shift in that direction. So that was a pretty major move that just took place there.
牛とみしよぞ今は恋しき寂しさに宿を立ち出て眺ればいずこも同じ秋の夕れ心当てにおらばやおらん初霜の大きい惑わせる白菊の花つくばねの峰よりをつる皆の川恋ぞつもりて縁となりぬる紫のついこまだ昼牧の葉に
This is the last card that I'm going to give just some explanation for. The beginning of that last poem begins with the phrase Murasame no. And as I introduced at the beginning, the name of our club here in San Francisco is called Murasame-kai. It's named after this poem because the poem actually talks about the imagery of the fog, and being located here in San Francisco, we feel that that's fitting in order to represent our Karuta club.
霧立ち上る秋の夕暮れ忍ぶれど色にでにけり我が恋は物や思うと人のとまで月見れば知事に物こそ悲しけれ我が身一つの秋にはあらねど田子の裏に打ち出てみれば白鯛の富士の高根に雪は降りつつ忘らるるには思わず誓いてし mistake. 人の命の惜しくもあるかな。世の中は常にもがもが渚はこぐ。天の船の妻で悲しも相見ての後の心に比べれば昔はもう思わざりけり我が袖は潮干に見え沖の石の人こそ知らねえ乾く間もなし何しようは大阪山の実かずら説明してください。取ったけどお手つきをミステイクしたから
Okay. So in this situation, Kaidai actually was the one that got to the correct card first, but he also committed the otetsuki, like the mistake earlier, and so that prevented him from being able to take that card. So Mariko was able to eliminate all the cards from her side, which makes her the winner of this match. So let's go ahead and have a round of applause for both our players. And also for Mr. Iko for coming all the way to Japan in order to help us out. So if you have any questions about the game, if you came in halfway through and you missed some of the explanation at the beginning, feel free to come up to any of us and talk to us. If you want to try it out yourself, we have some cards over here at the table and we can teach you some of the basics. And if this looks like something that you would like to do, we meet as a club on a regular basis. And so, feel free to join us. You can talk to us about the details of when we meet. But we welcome anyone who wants to come and learn how to play Karuta. So thank you for coming today.
Thank you.